The numbers loved him. The eyeballs kind of do too. Maybe we've got a fourth guy in the NBA draft we should be fired up about. It's next on Locked on Jazz.
You are Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked on Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps as well as on YouTube. Thank you so much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. And to the everydayers, you're the greatest. Thank you so much for tuning in each and every day to Locked on Jazz and making us who we have become and who we are. Today's show, Thursday edition, coming to you from Chicago, brought to you by Game Time. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for 20 years. For $20 off your first purchase. I am in Chicago, the Barrett Sports Media Conference. I'm actually on a panel. First time I've ever been on a panel. In the 8 years that we've built Locked On, I've declined every request to ever be on a panel, and I'm breaking my intentional drought today for some reason. Debatable why. All right, let's get to it. Here's what we got on the show. Late game watch. We'll talk about Boston and New York. A bunch of really interesting angles on that as Boston is down 2-0. Cleveland is down 2-0. NBA playoffs are nuts. Home court is, in fact, less of an impact and has been for a little while. It used to be that playoff games were won over 60% of the time by the home team. Since the rise of the three-point shot, three-point variance seems to be overriding the importance of home court. And, in fact, Game 7s have been won by the road team most often recently. So there is a fundamental change going on. And I said yesterday on the show that we'd look at this like there is also massive three-point shooting drought games happening here with some regularity, which is wild and really, really interesting to me on why this is taking place. So we'll touch on that. I've got some more thoughts on it. I've got some prep ready for you on that. And then we will also look at two players. I watched two Texas versus Oklahoma games. And I want to be clear. I'm going to say this every day. I hope it doesn't drive you guys crazy as I say this every single day. I don't want to, like, there are guys out there in the business. There are scouts out there that are just so much more advanced than anything that I'm doing here. And I don't want to act like, oh, I've watched 3 games and I know everything. Okay, so that's the first one that I want to make clear. So I watched 2 Oklahoma-Texas games, so we'll talk about Tre Johnson and we'll talk Jeremiah Fears. And I'll try to watch them both more as the lottery comes our direction on Monday. So we've got a few more days before the big moment of truth. All right, we'll start with Tre Johnson. So here's the lineup of the show. I kind of jacked. We'll do Tre Johnson. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jeremiah Fears. We're going to talk about there's some crazy stuff going on with bad three-point shooting nights in the NBA. We'll talk about that. And we'll do late game watch on Boston, New York. Let's start with Tre Johnson. The numbers really liked him. If you recall when we did the numbers last week, if you're an everydayer, Tre Johnson was one of the kind of 5 or 6 players that got flagged. Cooper Flagg was green. Dylan Harper, Tre Johnson, Jace Richardson, Neek Clifford, and Walter Clayton Jr. Those were the 6 guys that the numbers really liked. There weren't nearly as many guys as in years past we red flagged. So that's the first thing. That's what was most noticeable to me about this draft class is there just weren't as many guys. It really seems solid. There could be a lot of players out of this class. And watching Tre Johnson backs that up. The numbers liked Tre Johnson, and the eyeballs do too. Tre Johnson on the numbers was in the 81st percentile in transition on 116 attempts. That athleticism pops off the screen. He had 104 isolation attempts, which is a lot. He was average at it. That, to me, watching, is every single time he gets the ball, there's another guy on that side of the floor. There's no spacing. I didn't see anyone stop his first step. His first step is bona fide. He was in the 80th percentile in 125 pick and rolls. That's a lot. That's actually something I'll get into in the tape. 57th percentile spot up, 84th percentile in catch and shoot, which is great, and 75th percentile in dribble off the bounce. The numbers said yes. The eyeballs say yes too. The kid's really good. He's not without red flags or without concerns. So I'll get to the two concerns first. One is there doesn't seem to be a lot of physical contact, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of rebounding. For a guy who's 6'6", 190, he's pretty absent from the rebounding game. He averages 3 a game, and I'd almost say they're by accident. So he's pretty, at this stage, I would say he's an offensive player. He actually D'd up on, there were 2 plays where he got one-on-one on Fierce. He stymied him both times, once getting a steal. But his offense is really high level. He's from a basketball family. His dad played at Baylor before transferring somewhere else. His dad's now a coach in Texas, and you can tell the kid's been coached. He's got a beautiful high release on his jump shot. He can get it off from anywhere. First game I watched was Oklahoma, Texas, early in the year. Almost everything came on handoffs. They played a huge amount of handoff game. The second game, their big, who was also their primary scorer for a long time, who's allergic to passing, Kaluma, was out of the game with foul trouble, and now they were playing him off much more off-ball screens, much more pin downs, and letting him play some pick and roll. Saw him run both pick and roll right and pick and roll left. At 19, that's a big deal. His shot looks super easy. There will be no problem stretching him out range-wise. He's an 87% free throw shooter, which means the shooting numbers are real. This is going to be a high-level three-point shooter in the NBA. It's an easy shot, and the ball goes in. I was really impressed with his passing. Passed out of the post on a double to the right guy. Not a complicated pass. I mean, he found the guy where the double came from. Drove, passed it out. Did not seem to be a pig. Moved it. Very good kind of vision of the game. The biggest thing that jumped out to me was his feathery touch. Like, it's easy. And 2, his first step is real. He's 6'6", 200 pounds. Little Andrew Wiggins-esque. Wiggins might be a little bigger. A lot of Andrew Wiggins-esque, actually. Think he could probably score 20 points a game in the NBA. Think he could probably score 25 points a game in the NBA. Think he could also have plenty of 0 rebounding games like Andrew Wiggins. He had a really interesting season. This would be the other red flag. I didn't watch this to see it. He has some really big swoons in his season. In the middle of January, he just falls off the map. And at the end of the year, he just falls off the map. And in the middle, he's completely dominant. I don't quite know enough to know why. But it's an interesting, if I was a scout or if I was in a front office, I'm certainly looking into this as much as I can. If you go to from January 4th to January 29th, pretty much all of January, he shoots 30% and 20% from 3 in the middle of the SEC. 39%, 27% from 3. He also shoot 91% for the free throw line at temper. And then he comes out of that and gets crazy hot. And it's not like he was playing Alabama. He played Kentucky. He had 39 against Arkansas. Wasn't like he wasn't playing people. Texas wasn't good. But then the next 8 games, he comes out of that. He goes and averages crazy numbers and shoots 44%, 46% from 3. Scores 200 points in 8 games. 25 points a game. And then He just bombs the NCAA. Then he bombs the conference tournament. He goes 6 of 19, 8 of 21, which isn't terrible. And a double overtime win against Texas A&M, goes 4 of 9 from 3. And then they lose to Xavier in the first round of the tournament. He had 23. I'm in. I think this is a 20-point-a-night scorer in the NBA. That's big time. There aren't that many guys who can do that. I think this is a starting 6'6", two-guard who can play with the ball in his hands, can score, will shoot 38 to 39% from 3, will be able to play pick and roll, will be able to beat people in space, will be a better offensive player in the pros than in college, and is going to be a low rebounder player, but will pass enough. So if you can think of a 6'6" guard in the NBA that averages 20 a game with a good shooter, so he's not Jordan Poole, this is the kid. If that's your 4th pick of the draft, that's pretty damn good. So we've got Cooper Flagg, we got Ace Bailey, we got Dylan Harper, we got Tre Johnson. I've watched all 4. I like all 4 of them. Yeah, I think Dylan Harper right now is ready to start and play. Cooper Flagg's ready to star. Ace Bailey, it's going to take a lot of time. He's a baby giraffe, as I called him yesterday. But that's got the upside that's incredible, and this kid's going to score. I'll be stunned if Tre Johnson's not a bona fide scorer in the NBA. It's that good. So there's 4 guys now. But I do have fears about Jeremiah Fears, and we'll do that next on Locked On Jazz. Today's edition of Locked On Jazz is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. What just happened? This whole thing just glitched. It says it stopped recording. My whole computer has frozen. What is it? There we go. No. I think you can still hear me. I just can't see what's going on. I wonder if I can put things up on the board. Well, my StreamYard has just frozen completely. Let's see what happens if I do this. This is a risk. Changes will not be saved. We'll cancel. Oh, there I am. I don't want game time. That's really weird. All right, let's start this all again. That was kind of weird. Apologize for that weirdness. I think we're still up and running. Let's try it again. We'll have fears about Jeremiah Fears next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Upwork. Now it all seems to be working nicely. When you're scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time, with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility, connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries. Multiple industries, IT, AI, web development, marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Find the right talent. If you need help in a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Your posting a job is free and simple, and within days, multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Choose cost-effective growth, including hiring full-time. Upwork finds affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business efficiently. Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. That's Upwork.com. Upwork, UPWORK.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. Oh, our good old friends at Game Time. I love it this time of year for concerts. As I've told you, there's nothing more I like than that summer environment of seeing a show. I love going to concerts. There's also nothing like a playoff game or an MLB game. So whether it's the electricity of the arena, the outside concert you're looking for, seeing great music with friends, whatever it is, go to Game Time and be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app act down as tip-off or concert gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Here's why I use Game Time, because 1, the last-minute buying opportunities are great. I can just stay on it. 2, the all-in pricing, I get no surprises. 3, they're going to siphon out all the millions of tickets and let me know which ones are the best deals. So take the guesswork out of buying. Create an account. and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, and create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for sticking with that weird little blip we had right there. It's what happens when you record from hotels. Thanks so much for tuning in today to Locked On Jazz, being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we'll get to the kind of weird shooting anomalies that are going on in the NBA right now for you. Let's get to Jeremiah Fears. By the way, Tre Johnson, who we just had on, I have not watched VJ Edgecombe yet. I know Leaf Tuline's not particularly high on him. But I was a little surprised when I went to the Ringer, and they had Tre Johnson as 10th. So maybe I love offense too much, but I think that is what the league is. But I was a little stunned that VJ Edgecombe is 3, Con Knipple is 5, Carter Bryant is 6th, Derek Queen is 7, Maluch is 8th, Yakachonis is 9th, and Tre Johnson is 10th. That was really surprising to me because I really thought I was the 4th pick of the draft. Again, everyone's kind of gotten this mode of like, well, it's Cooper Flagg or bust. I'm not seeing that. ESPN has VJ Edgecombe at 4, Jeremiah Fears at 5, and Tre Johnson at 6. Okay, I've watched 2 games. There's no chance that I would ever draft Jeremiah Fears over Tre Johnson in what I like of players. Okay, this is just me. I'm not saying like if the Jazz go do this, they're crazy. Danny Ainge, Justin Zanuck, Bart Taylor, Luka, Marquise, their whole staff, Katie, they know way more than I do. But I just watched this. There's zero chance it would ever cross my mind to take Jeremiah Fears over Tre Johnson. So Jeremiah Fears is a nice player. He's 6'4", and he controls the game. He plays with a nice tempo. He's got the size. He's from a basketball background, kind of similar story, very actually similar parental stories on both these. Tre's dad played, I think, at Bradley in Ohio, were the 2 places where he played. His older brother plays at Michigan State. So he's a schooled basketball player. To me, he found a way to score 17 points a game, but it did not feel to me like an NBA 17. Tre Johnson scored 20 points a game, and it felt to me like an NBA 25. Like the game, and maybe when the game opens up for Tre Johnson, and maybe I'm just being unfair, but Jeremiah Fears has this kind of unique game where he's super crafty in how he finishes around the basket. It's like an off-balance scoop and an underhand this, and maybe these things will completely translate to the NBA game. The thing that concerned me is the 2 times when he did this and got it swatted. And I start to think about the NBA where every rim defender is going to be a little bigger and a little faster and a little longer. And talking to Keontae George and talking to Isaiah Collier in the last year about how small the windows are and how quickly the rim closes up. I'm not convinced that Jeremiah Fears is going to be able to get to around the basket enough to make all these crafty shots. Now, CJ McCollum, I had the same fear on, and I was 100% wrong. I didn't love some other little things. There was a really horse crap closeout on one play. There seemed to be just a lack of juice at other times. He does read the pick and roll really well. Guy slips, he hit him right, and he hit him right at the right spot. Like, it's one thing to come off the pick and hit the guy rolling. Like, that's pretty basic basketball. But hit him, so you hit him with at utmost advantage. Fears did exactly that. But his outside shot is not good. He's a sub 30% three-point shooter, so that was concerning me. His jumper didn't look natural. His mid-range game, which he really likes, is not what I want out of an NBA player. And I didn't totally think that shot came off. I'm mystified as I now deep dive in this draft in my watching how different I am than some of these boards. That's weird to me because it's not usually that big a difference. Last year was all over the map because the players weren't particularly good. And I guess maybe last year I was all over the map too because everyone loved Ron Holland and Stephen Castle, and I didn't because they can't shoot. And I like guys that can shoot. That's my fundamental able to shoot to play in this league. Jeremiah Fears, 60th percentile in transition, 69th percentile in isolation, 58th percentile in pick and roll on 218. He really has it all the time. 50th spot up shooter, 66% catch and shoot. His shooting percentage really goes down because of the amount of off the bounce shots he took, 133, and only made effective field goal percentage was only 37%. Because he takes almost all of them in the mid-range. Not all of them, but a lot of them. The world has this guy very, very high. And I have some real fears on Fears. I don't think the game around the basket's natural. It's certainly not elevating. It's playing with this long outstretched, kind of like if you think about Keontae and how Keontae was kind of taking these wild little runners around the basket because he couldn't get up on the cup. Keontae's one of the worst rim finishers in the NBA. That's how I felt. I think Fears will have a really, really hard time finishing in the rim in the NBA. I don't see his three-point shot as being natural, so I'm very concerned of where he is offensively. And that's how I look at players. So this could be really interesting because I'm not seeing things necessarily the same way everybody else is, at least in the initial looks. I need to get Raphael Barlow, James Barlow, and Leaf Tulin's big boards so I can reference those as well as ESPN and Ringer. I will be doing that as we continue. All right. Something funky is going on with NBA three-point shooting. Might mean something for the playoffs. We may have two totally different games, NBA game for a playoff game. And late game watch on Boston, New York coming up. Some interesting notes on that game. I think it'll be different than the narrative you hear all day long. Will lottery next as well. Where will the Jazz end up in the lottery? It continues next on Locked on Jazz. If you're a small business owner, and you know you can never afford to miss a call because that's money left on the table, or if you're building a business and you know how annoying it is to have your own personal phone become the business phone, then it's time for Open Phone. Because if the first person doesn't answer when you call for someone, you go to the next person on the list. You don't want to be that company that got left behind. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system. It's built to streamline and scale your business to make sure that you get maximum revenue, the best communications, and you don't miss a call. It's the #1 business phone system, all from an app on your phone or your computer. Pretty great. Open Phone lets you manage your business calls, text from a single app. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat, and their AI agent handles after-hour calls. Open Phone is offering my listeners, you, 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's Openphone, OpenPhone.com/lockedonnba. If you have an existing number with other services, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Wow. StreamYard just froze again. But I'm still here. We'll keep the Open Phone thing up. Not sure why this is happening. Whoa. That is doing some weird stuff. All right. I want to do the lottery simulation. And it's automatically going onto my screen in the weirdest of ways right now. And it is not allowing me to switch screens right now. Who knows? Such interesting things to play with technology. All right, I think I have it actually working now. All right, let's do the lottery. We get to do this 3 more times. We've had 1 time where we got the first pick. Here we go. We're beginning to know this by heart. We want to make sure that we have San Antonio, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, Portland, Rockets, Spurs, Raptors, Brooklyn. Here we go. San Antonio holds at 14. Atlanta holds at 13. Oh, my. The Bulls are at 12. Oh, that's right. Dallas is at 11. Portland at 10. The Rockets at 9. Philadelphia will keep their pick. San Antonio at 8. The Raptors are at 7. I think Brooklyn is 6. 5 is the Pelicans. Where will the Jazz finish? The Jazz finish at 4th. Washington 3. 76ers at 2. And the Hornets put LaMelo Ball and Cooper Flagg together. Philadelphia keeps just having a field day in this. Washington at 3, and the Jazz will pick 4th, which is probably meaning the Jazz, at least in my book at this point, either VJ Edgecombe or Tre Johnson. Tre Johnson's a 20-point-a-game scorer. I would be comfortable in telling you that if we got Tre Johnson in the 4th pick of the draft after watching him for the last day or two, that would be the first piece we have of the puzzle we know is going to be really good. You're now building around a 6'6" guard that can score 20 points a game. And you figure out who works with him. Can he and Keontae play the backcourt together? Maybe. Texas combo. Both kids growing up in Dallas. Can Isaiah Collier shoot well enough? Who knows? All right, here's a little interesting note for you about the playoffs this year. And we'll dig more into this there's been 100 games so far. There have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 games so far. 17% of the games. And actually, if you kind of dig into it, it's actually 17 out of 50. So it's 34% of the games have had one of the 2 teams, shoot under 25%. 25% or below from 3. If you go to 30%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 more. So we are having, with some of the best offensive teams in the league, a lot of games now where teams are shooting sub 30% from 3. Detroit beat New York in one of those. Orlando actually beat Boston. Detroit beat New York in another one. LA beat Minnesota in one. And Oklahoma City beat Memphis. And Minnesota beat LA the other night when they shot 15%. So it actually doesn't mean you totally lose. The flip side, of course, is if you shoot the 3 well, you generally win. But not, if you go over 50%, you won this. But that's only happened 4 times. Houston, Milwaukee, Miami, and Detroit all lost games while shooting over 40% from 3. But there are more bad shooting 3-point shots right now. 27 of the 100 performances right now are sub 30%. 27 of the 100. So 1 out of 3 almost now are games where teams are shooting sub 30%. All right, late game watch. Everyone's going to talk about Chicago's or New York or Boston's offense. Let's go to the other side for a second. The level that New York is hunting Al Horford is crazy. In fact, Tom Thibodeau's gotten creative. It's not just high pick and roll every time getting Al Horford switched onto the ball. It's also a beautiful off-ball play where Al Horford's trying to be hidden on Josh Hart, so they run Jalen Brunson off Josh Hart. Jalen Brunson catches in the corner, then Hart rolls because they've got to protect Al Horford to not switch. But Horford's got to get out on Brunson, but the other guy's got to. So that's Hart's man. Then Brunson's guy's got to get back to him because they don't want Al Horford on Brunson. So Hart rolls to the basket. They hit Hart on the roll off a baseline, not from the top, from the sideline. Really beautiful plays. They really just targeted Al Horford a tremendous amount. That's the biggest problem for Boston is they did not used to have, in the last playoff run, when you watch Boston, with Drew Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, someone I'm missing, and a younger Al Horford, Derek White, you couldn't go find a pigeon. You couldn't go find someone to shoot at. New York is shooting at Al Horford every play. And then they're pretty small rebounding because Horford's not very big. I don't know that they can take Horford off the floor because they need some sort of rebounding. I mean, you could go play Peyton Pritchard, you play small, but then Jason Tatum's your center. They may have to do that. But Peyton Pritchard's not great defensively either. They are completely lost offensively. That will be talked about the whole time. The three-point shot will get a lot out of it. But they're running a lot of different stuff, and none of it's working. Their late game actions in the final 5 minutes were Derek White, Jason Tatum pick and roll to get a switch. Jaylen Brown, Derek White pick and roll. Tatum off a double stagger left to right. A Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday pick and roll. They ran a pretty high level variation of different plays. Tatum isolation on the final play. Al Horford, by the way, on the final play of the game where Jason Tatum gets blocks, rolls when he's got to set that pick and pop. Instead, he rolled right into Tatum's driving lane. He had nowhere to go. But what's interesting to me is, so Boston made their living all year long on three-point shots, and that's how they played drive, kick, and take the threes. And now there's going to be this narrative about it, whether they should be doing that or not. That's fine. But they don't actually have another answer. What jumps out to me is that late game, they tried every combination of things. A lot of the Derek White stuff was all to try to get the same mismatch. They didn't hunt Karl Anthony Towns very well, which is the one weak defender on New York. But with Jason Hart, Jalen Brunson, they tried to go after Brunson a little bit. That's why they're bringing Derek White up, was to bring Brunson into the action. But OG Anunoby, you don't want to go against. Mikal Bridges, you don't want to go against. Josh Hart, you don't want to go up against. Brunson and Towns are your two guys. And New York's not double teaming anyone. So then the three-point shooters are not particularly open. But it's really interesting to me that Boston ran that many variation of plays. They ran 5 different plays in the final 5 minutes, which is a lot. And got nothing. Got really nothing. Pretty wild. All right, tomorrow we'll be back in Salt Lake City, or Park City, and bring you the show. Hopefully I'll have watched a little bit more of some players, maybe some VJ Edgecombe. And we'll have another lottery. We might even have a late game watch if we have a good one. And it's a Friday show, so we'll have some Ask LOJ. We haven't done that in 2 weeks, so we'll do that tomorrow. Thanks very much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz, being an everyday or being a part of the show. If you have not followed me on the socials, it's DLock09. We will now send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel on video, Locked On NBA. If you're on audio, check out Locked On NBA, Doug Branson, Matt Moore, and Hayes with the NBA show every day on Locked On NBA.